On the 27th of April, WildEarth will be turning 14 years old, and we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for all of you. And to celebrate, we will be finishing the beautiful book that we started last year that looks at the history so far. But we do need you to be part of it. Please submit your most memorable sighting, or what WildEarth means to you, or even just your name and a comment to be included inside the book. Head over to the website to add your name and reserve your copy. We are offering a 20% discount on all books bought before the end of March. And a big thank you to all of you who have contributed to the book so far.
Our lives are dictated by alarm clocks, traffic jams, constant multitasking, and countless distractions. The wilderness is where many of us feel the most human. On a bushwalk, we become part of the natural landscape. As you step off the vehicle, everything comes alive. As with any risky experience, walking amongst these animals inspires awe and appreciation. Now, it's your turn to go on a bushwalk. Join us from Pride Lands as we slow down our thoughts, put aside our distractions, and reconnect with a place that first taught us how to be human.
Hi everyone, my name's Daniel Fisher and I'm going to be your guide this afternoon. I'm looking really forward to taking you through and showing you all the beautiful places here at and beyond Ngala. If you have any questions, please register on our website. Once registered, go to the live page feed and post your questions underneath the live feed. Join me on my next safari through and beyond Ngala on WildEarth. Send me live questions through the WildEarth website and I'll answer them live from the African.
This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to and Beyond Ngala's Private Game Reserve. As you can see this afternoon, we have found some cats for you there that we saw on the way back from the morning game drive after the show. So we decided to start the show with them. And I said to you guys, welcome aboard to your live safari in the African wild. As you can see, these 4 cheetah have been lying underneath that shade of that quarry. I think it's safe to say from this morning. Even though it was quite cloudy, I could feel it as well. It warmed up sometime during this morning. So I think they've been there because it wasn't far from where we saw them. In fact, I think it was the exact position. We just saw the last one moving in. This is the mother and 4 that have been on Ngala for the last couple of days. All right, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Ruel, and behind the camera with me, we've got Gert. And this afternoon, we had planned to come and see if we could find this cheetah again. And then perhaps later on, we will go and try and see if we can find the Birmingham Pride with the one Rosmel and some youngsters there. So I think for now, what we're going to do, we're going to sit, enjoy these guys. Every now and again, you'll see one of them will get up or lift up their head to have a look, scan the area. It is quite an interesting life they must live, and I'm impressed to see that the mother on her own has raised these 3 youngsters, and she's done well. Of course, we don't know if she had more, or this was the only number that she had in her litter. It's possible that she could have more. Sorry, James, I think I missed the first part of your question there. You know what? I'm just trying to get my head and wrap it around it, because for us, James, in this property, especially on Ngala, we hardly see this animal in particular. So having a cheetah on our property is a huge blessing. And I can tell you this, having them here for this long, and if I recall, I think they've been here for almost a week now, and they've hunted safely. And they've hunted safely in this property for quite some time. I'm surprised with the number of hyenas and lions in this area that they were able to hunt successfully and feed on. But for now, we'll stick around and stay here with them and see what they get up to.
Welcome to and Beyond Djuma Private Game Reserve, everyone, where we found a really full-looking male lion,
And you can see he's just found a lovely little patch of shade. It's quite a hot day out here today. My name is Pete, and behind the camera today we have Craig. And it's quite a hot day out here today. There's a little bit of cloud cover coming over now, but we can see most of these lions today have found a little bit of shade. There were reports this morning, I think you guys are with them, where they had caught a wildebeest. So I'm sure that wildebeest is somewhere around here. All of these lions are probably eaten their fill for now, and just trying to digest that food. You can see those ones that Craig is on at the moment, lying belly up. You can see that beautiful white belly there. It looks very, very full. And the one just to the right's got her eyes closed. She looks quite content. Oh, just putting her head up there. It looks like there may actually be 3 that side. And it looks like all the adults. I'm sure the rest of the pride might be, or the youngsters, the cubs might be somewhere in the bush, just behind them, probably not too far. See this male lion. I wouldn't be surprised if the carcass is closer to him. I'm not too sure where the carcass is. I wasn't here this morning, but we were going to have a look for it just now. Oh, boof, down. Now you can see that nice hump where his belly is. Very, very full. Watch now as he's breathing. You can see that whole body is moving. And this is the way that lions best digest their food. And they'll eat as much as they can until they literally can't take any more. And they'll go and find a little patch of shade and just breathe very heavily until they digest all that food. See that big tail just swashing around there. You can imagine a carcass attracts a lot of flies, and flies annoy lions quite a lot. So that big tail is very useful in trying to get those flies away. You can see that big canine, that right bottom canine. You can imagine what an impact that could have on a wildebeest. Go right through. Sorry. I think let's go forward a little bit and see if we can find the rest of the pride. This one's facing away from us, this male. I'm going to slowly go past him because he is really, really close to the road. So Lisa, on Phinda, the lions are quite spoiled for choice. They don't often hunt animals like buffalo. But when I went to visit the Kruger National Park last year, at Ngala actually, I saw a male lion that took down a big buffalo bull, what they call a dugger all by himself. So that was probably the most impressive and the biggest thing that I've seen a lion take down. See some tracks going on here. I've heard stories of lions in Botswana hunting elephants, but I've never seen that myself. Must be quite impressive. Here's the rest of the pride. Oh, so beautiful. You can see now just the 2 lionesses looking at us, and then the 3 cubs just lying flat there to the right-hand side. I'm sure these 2 lionesses probably took down the wildebeest. I'm not too sure where it is, like I said earlier. But as soon as they had taken it down, the male lion probably would have come and eaten first. Oh, there it is. Well done, Craig. You can see there's not a whole lot left of the wildebeest. But I'm sure we're going to try and take a closer look, go around and see if there is any meat left. We're going to send you off to Steve, and we're going to sit here for a little while and see if these lions get back to the carcass.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to an overcast but yet cool Djuma Private Game Reserve in the Sabi Sands. We were caught up with a young elephant bull who's just chilling out here, having a little meal. Hello, everybody. My name is Steve, joined by Johan on camera, and we are very excited to have you with us, of course, as always. It's nice to be out and about. And, well, let's have a look at our elephant. It's a young bull, middle to late teens. I can tell you that because we actually saw more of him a moment ago. And I'm almost certain that he's probably following a breeding herd that we didn't see. So our objectives for this afternoon were to go up, just have a little look at Bufosuk, and then maybe go see if we can follow up on where we left Tandi this morning. She was still moving. But we haven't been seeing that many elephants around at the moment, so maybe we'll just follow this fellow for a little bit. And he's hiding behind the bush. He's at that age when, if he's on his own like this, it's probably very obvious that he's following a breeding herd, or he'd be with another group of bulls. You don't often find bulls of this size just on their own. They've been ousted from the breeding herd because of interest in the female members, but they still follow along, follow the roots, keep a very close eye on the family. They kind of have been let go, but are reluctant to go. Amazing how they do disappear in the thickets like that. Let me move up a bit, maybe we'll get a better view. It's just a teenager. Just a teenager. Where's everybody else? Naps they do. They do have a very good memory. Like us, they are learned organisms, which means that they learn everything for their life from their parents. They pay attention from a very young age. So right now, the way he's feeding, what he's feeding on, the plants, he was shown them by his mum, and then they sort of imprint that smell, just like the first time you're given a peach as a child, or a plum, or whatever it is that you like eating, that your parents showed you, and they will eat that. A lot of the forbs that he feeds on, a lot of the grasses, the particular types of food that he eats, he'll have learned that from mum. And then also they learn their sort of migratory routes, or where water is when the times are dry, or a little bit more drought-ridden times. So they do have very good memories. He doesn't look wet at all. They've just come from Tambuti Dam, so it's possible that if he is indeed following a breeding herd, which is what I assume he's doing, that they will be there close towards Vuetela Dam and about. That is the general direction he's headed, so we will go jump ahead of him, see if we can catch up with the rest of the herd, and then hopefully he'll come and join us for Vuetela Dam for a drink. It takes a little bit of time for the trunk to dry after drinking, and the body, if he's splashed himself. Okay, well, when you are dry, there's no better way to cool down than to get a little bit wet.
Goodness gracious, it's been a whole 2 days, I think, since we've last showed you elephants on a bush. Finally, they're back swimming right outside the eco-training camp. And of course, in Djuma Dam. My name is Niels, and we're none other than Pridelands Conservancy, which is part of Basil Game Reserve and the Greater Kruger Park. Now, I'm hoping that we're going to have some interesting behaviors for you today. At the moment, you can see the older bulls playing in the water, and then there's 2 youngsters all the way at the back on the other side of the dam that have definitely been left behind. A breeding herd has just moved through here, and now I don't know if they're going to have a drink or if they're going to play catch-up, as the herd has literally gone all the way around to the western side of the dam. But they haven't stopped fooling about just yet. You can see the fella at the back's got his trunk wrapped around his buddy's rear end, and probably probing him with his tusk, edging him on. Come on, hurry up, you're not going quite quick enough. The one in the front's not very happy about that now. Hey, there we go. Turn and face your challenger. They're probably all very riled up because, oi, behave. This is, of course, as most of you know by now, it is a dominance display. So the elephant at the back is merely just saying, I'm bigger than you. But now a bigger elephant on the left has come on in, and that seems to have settled those 2 down. Just saying hello, greeting them now. It's always very, very, very special to have elephants on foot. Now, one of the reasons why I think the elephants are all riled up at the moment is because our favorite BFG, the big friendly giant that roams around here on Pridelands and, of course, Baluli and goes into the Timbavati sometimes, is a weenie. And I can't show you him right now, but he's literally in the middle of camp. So I'm hoping that not too long, we're going to get an opportunity where it's safe and he moves out of those confined spaces and here out into the open where we'll see him. But he's still in must, and that scent that's lingering around here I think is exciting everybody at the moment. So we will just wait till he gets to a better spot. And you can see some of the younger bulls have got their trunks up, so I reckon that they are smelling us. They can definitely hear us. Actually, look who's just popped out, who's come out of camp. There he is. Niels, he's actually coming towards us. So what we might have to do in this situation is actually move to a safer point because we don't want to be blocked right on the water's edge. So we might actually have to turn around and go up on the dam wall or do something else which will require shimmy shuffling. Just because we want to be in a nice view so that we can view him for a lot longer. He is very relaxed with people on foot. He roams through camp constantly, but that's not the goal, is to have an elephant touch you. So you're definitely going to have to move away from the sighting, unfortunately. I'm just going to chat to Sean. Where would you like us to go?
I can either move along the bank here.
Okay.
Considering that he's coming this way, it would probably make more sense for us to just move parallel to him in the opposite direction.
Okay, perfect. Sorry, everyone. As you might just hear a little voice. As Sean, one of the head instructors at Eco Training, he's out with us on a walk this afternoon, so I'm going to follow you. Niels, you are going to have to probably follow me, so maybe not. We need to get out of his way. I'm not sure if we are still live. Sorry, everyone. I would have liked to have done this off air. Cool. So what we're going to do is try and get to a safe spot while you go and have a look at some lovely lazy lions.
Welcome back to And Beyond Phinda. We just came across around the corner and we found the carcass, and it looks like there is nothing left of it. You can see those bones are almost completely clean, and it's quite interesting to see how this whole carcass is almost in a straight line like this. I wonder if the lions had pulled at different parts for themselves. Not sure if you've ever seen lions at a carcass, but they are quite aggressive and they're quite keen to have their own little bit to themselves. So I would imagine the male lions would have had quite a lot to eat, and then the cubs would have come in and had second, and then after that the mothers would have come. But you can see just to the left here this whole big string of almost the different limbs that are in pieces here, and it looks like they've been nibbling at the bone there, trying to get every last little bit that they can off of these bones. If you go back towards those ribs there's not a whole lot left, and you can imagine with such big teeth they'd struggle to get in between those ribs. Maybe the younger cubs would be able to get there. But for quite a big wildebeest, it's interesting how quickly they've devoured this animal. But you can see that by the way that they're lying now, just lying dead flat. The one got up just to move out of the sun a little bit now. You can see she's got her back towards us. So often they just want the shade. They don't have sweat glands like you and I, and they have to extract all their heat through their mouths. So that's why they often see them panting quite heavily. That's how they do it. I'm going to swing around, try and get us that same angle. Just wanted to show you guys that carcass quickly. There you go. Sipho, they probably won't need to eat for another 2 or 3 days from now. Yeah, so obviously depending on the size of the meal, it depends on how often they'll eat. But with this whole pride, we can see 5 animals here, and we know that there are 2 males and another 4 cubs somewhere that we haven't been able to find yet. So a total of 11 lions. You can imagine 11 lions with 1 wildebeest. It will last them a while, but they will have to eat in the next 2 or 3 days. The male lions will it might last them a little bit longer. Depends on how far they travel. Depending on their travels, it also depends on how fast they're going to digest that food. Often these male lions, they go between 2 different prides on the reserve, so they might come and spend a little bit of time with this pride, especially now that they've got these younger cubs that are moving around with them. They'll spend a little bit of time with them, and then once they've had a nice big meal, they'll get the energy to go back towards the other pride, which is actually quite a distance away, sometimes a good 20 kilometers away, and they'll sometimes walk that through the night or split into 2 different days, but they can walk very far distances. You can see these cubs here, slightly older, they're about a year old, but it's amazing how fast they've grown since they've changed their diet from milk to meat. They've grown, increased in size very, very quickly. It's amazing. The 3 youngsters, they like I said earlier, they're about a year old, and they'll start at this stage just admiring what the mothers are doing, what the lionesses are doing when they're hunting. They won't be taking part in any of the hunts just yet, but they're very, very inquisitive. So if they come across a little scrub hare or a mongoose, they'll try what they've been learning from their mother, they'll try and put that into action. And they're actually quite successful sometimes, especially with catching grasshoppers or little things. Just as this little bit of cloud cover comes over, I'm sure they're going to enjoy the little bit of shade that this cloud is forming.
For all of you WildEarth explorers who bought plaques, today is the day that you will make your very first safari on our vehicle. Because we are quite remote here in the bush, they have taken some time to arrive, but I am happy to say they are here and they look great. Marcel has spent the day attaching them. Let's take a look.
Before we mount these nameplates, we just give a light dusting of green paint. This is to better match them to the color of the vehicles and also to decrease the reflectivity of the metal and thereby staying sensitive towards the animals.
Bumbo crew, hopefully Dan Black, Liesel Apgar and Alicia George. Well, it's time for me to get ready to take you all on a safari. Let's go.
I'm absolutely delighted to have won the February prize draw for 3 nights for 6 people at the Djuma Private Game Reserve. I absolutely love everything WildEarth has to offer. I find the guides extremely knowledgeable and will go above and beyond to ensure a great safari experience. I will be taking my husband and family from the UK to experience this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. One of the main reasons I joined the WildEarth Explorer program was for the fireside chats and also to win an incredible prize, which I am so fortunate to win and incredibly happy. I would like to thank WildEarth for this amazing prize and cannot wait to meet the team.
Hello, I'm Marna, your WildEarth Safari Guide from and beyond Gala. What I really like about connecting with WildEarth viewers is that we get to speak to viewers instantly and I get to show you this beautiful property. If you want to ask me a question, register on the WildEarth website. Simply head over to the live safari page and you can submit your questions there. Join me or one of the other guides twice a day on WildEarth.
Good afternoon everyone and welcome. We are here at the den, in fact the old den. And here's Hart and June's cub is here too. So we actually just swung by to have a look because we happened to be at Treehouse Dam, and on the other side Antima was there but she was just lying around, nothing happening, and then we tried to check here and then these two are out, which is quite cool. It's me, it's Trishala, I've got Mpo on camera with me and we're excited to actually see the hyenas this afternoon. All very, very chilled. So like I said, Antima was at the old den, but she was just lying down, not close to the den entrance, with no cubs out or anything like that. Just thought we'd check here. But they're very, very close to each other. It's about 100, 200 meters. That's about it, because there's another den in between them that was frequently used. It's overcast and pretty cool today, so I'm not surprised that we're seeing them here out in the open, not in the shade or anything like that, in the middle of the day, or well, in the afternoon. We usually hope to find them in the evenings. That's quite nice. So June's cub is just in front of me. Also having a bit of a lazy afternoon. Hello, little. Say hello to everybody. Too cute. I love this little cub. Navela is her name. Pretty name for a pretty cub. Not that the others are not. So whenever we say something is cute, and I have to remind myself, well, have I ever seen a hyena cub not cute? Not cute. Now it's very peaceful here, and there's a few crested francolin around, as well as some hornbills. And that's keeping this little cub entertained. I want to stick around because I want to see who else is in this den. Because do you remember the last night or a couple nights ago when we had them, Ribbon's two boys and Ribbon were at the other den? There's the Franklin. Can you hear the Franklin? Is it alarming at you, little one? Look at you. Yes, you. You're scary to that Franklin. Very cute. What was I saying at the other den? It was Ribbon and her two boys and then Intima's little one. So I wonder if there's a little separation happening. Either way, we'll stick around to find out. But I'm going to send you over to Rule and his cheetah. I think I heard a cheetah. Either that or he's looking for one.
You could see they're still lying down there. And there were reports that at least 2 kilometers away from here, there is some lions that were lying there. You saw them lift up their heads earlier on. They just heard some birds going on. I think they just wanted to have a look, see what it could be. It's like almost as if they are living in the edge. Because right now, if they all lay down flat, should any other predator walk past this place, and they would be in trouble. I think it's one of the reasons why you'll see every now and again they'll just lift up their heads to look around and just make sure that the surrounding area is still safe for them to be there. They are very far from where they were seen or left yesterday in the evening, and it's just surprising the amount of distance that they have covered over that one night. But I guess when there is a lot of other predators and these guys have to get out of the way, they'll take whatever distance it means to get as far as possible. Jess, you asking how many cheetah we've got on Ngala. So that is quite hard to say because cheetahs roam freely, whereas unlike the other predators that would be very territorial and stay within their territory. In our property, we randomly see cheetah. It's quite fortunate that we get to see cheetah. Sometimes we go for a long time. Like before, I saw these ones a few days ago. I had not seen cheetah in over a year. And I think that's because we got very high population of the other predators here. And all of those become a potential threat to this one animal. So on Ngala, it's difficult to say how many cheetah we have. Because also, sometimes we see them for a week, they're here and disappear for a while, and in a few months, we just randomly find different cheetah that we haven't seen before. And there are a few open areas in our property, especially close to this side that we on the southern part of the reserve. And this is one of the few places that becomes favorable for the cheetah to be around, because if it's wide open, it also means that they'll be able to see things coming in from a distance. You can see how relatively small their head is. If it gets up, you'll notice they have a very, very long body, very thin, but of course all of that is known for, or maybe for, their speed. Alright, so these guys are still laying down flat and doesn't look like they'll be moving anytime soon. I think what we're gonna do, let's quickly send you over to Josh and say hello to him this afternoon.
Well, good afternoon and welcome to a very windy Tswalu Kalahari. You find us quite far west, rather far from home. Myself and BK decided this afternoon we were going to try and change things up a bit and see a different region of the reserve. So far it is paying dividends. What you can see on the screen there is a Peregrine Falcon. So we're in the west of the reserve, Kalkapan. And what we find here is there's a breeding pair of peregrines that likes to chase the Namako doves as well as the sandgrouse in this area during the day and try and be successful in hunting, obviously. Always fun. And again, good afternoon. My name is Josh. I'll be your guide. Behind the camera is BK. Always a fun one when we get to explore a bit of the reserve. And in this case, a nice little find here with a peregrine as well as a nice herd of blue wildebeest who've decided to make this massive open area their destination for the day. BK will give us a little bit of a pan around. You'll get a bit of an idea of the difference in the landscape here. So this is a massive old concrete region. So this region would have been under sea a couple of 100,000 years ago. And it's massively open with one or two old shepherd's trees. We've been here a few minutes and there's little bits of game here and there, but I think a lot of the game is hiding because of this hard wind. Obviously it affects their sense of smell as well as their hearing. I think we're going to see what this peregrine gets up to and what else maybe comes to the waterhole. We're going to be sending you across to Taylor, who has some elephants for you. Enjoy.
Goodness, I'm glad we don't have any big gusting winds. After the bad weather we've had, everything seems to be a lot calmer. And I think Ezzelwini, who is hiding behind that marula tree, agrees as well, which is awesome. He's just pushed over an enormous tree, which he is now feasting on. And what you can't see, because it's a little bit difficult, there is another small elephant, a young bull, that has come to join him. Everyone is very excited when he is around, and all the young bulls can't wait to get their turn just to feed next to him. Because in this area, this is what I would imagine. We all know, of course, with young elephant bulls, they will often look for, if you will, a mentor, and they will follow around the older, more dominant bulls that have got a bit more life experience. And Ezzelwini's not interested in having anything to do with these youngsters. He's very much nomadic and he goes about and does his thing. Right now, he's only interested in searching for cows that are potentially in estrus. And these young males get as close as they can to him. They just feed there. So it's like, feeding with a celebrity. I really think that must be the case. but this is the second time we've actually seen Ezulwini do this on foot, where he's pushed over a big tree. And at least he doesn't let it go to waste. He doesn't just push it over and then walk away, as I've seen elephants do before. He spends a huge amount of time feeding on the tree that he has pushed on over, and all the other younger elephants will definitely be appreciative of this. You can see he's just moving off now. Oh, look at all of the elephants, actually. There's a whole bunch. I thought there was just 1 or 2 bulls, but unfortunately you can see the grass that I'm standing in is basically chest high at the moment. It's very difficult to see what's happening. But now I don't know if it's just young bulls that have all come from the dam that were swimming, or if it's a breeding herd. The breeding herd went west, so I don't think it's them. But, you know, it's inevitable with the amount of breeding herds that we do see passing through here. They could have snuck up, but I think it's some of those bulls that have come through. Jackson, you've inquired about when do elephants stop going into must. I think it's quite late in life. So, I mean, Ezulwini is, they guess, between 45 and 50 years old, somewhere around there. And I think he'll go into must for a little bit longer. I think it also depends on, it is a breeding herd. Sorry, there is a cow coming through there, it looks like with a calf. I think it will depend on a number of environmental factors. Is there enough food around? You know, is there a drought that's happening? Is there sufficient water? All these types of things will come into play. So as long as Ezulwini is fit and healthy, you may find that he'll go into must maybe until he's, 60 years old or so. If he's in good condition, and he looks like he's in fantastic condition, but it might be a little bit before that, which is awesome. Oh, do you know, else I saw today, funny enough, very briefly, I spotted Kumo. Now, some of you, especially the new viewers, probably won't know who Kumo is, but he used to be an elephant that we saw quite regularly, and it was quite easy to spot because he was collared, so he had a tracking device on him that allowed elephants alive to gain valuable information about his movements. And he broke it off, though. We had to go and find it, which is quite funny, but I did see him very briefly, so that's quite nice. I think he is going to keep well away from Ezulwini, however. He's not quite at the size where he can compete with that great giant. Even though we've seen Kumo quite a few times and he's walked right past the cars, and we know how big he is, and he's a big elephant. Yeah, no. Ezulwini dwarfs him. So there we go. Now you can see all the other elephants gathering around, very happy to feed at a level that's more comfortable. And once the elephants have moved through, I'm sure some antelope will come through too. Corolla, yes, I think everyone agrees with you, and especially people who have encountered Ezulwini in person. He is indeed a gentle giant. And, what's not to love about an elephant with enormous tusks? I'm just watching. Because we're on some of the major animal pathways, and when you are walking and you walk on a well-used path, especially when it's summer and the grass is this high and it's particularly flattened, you know things like elephants are using it quite regularly. So they would probably use one of these pathways to go down to the dam, which is in this direction. So I'm just keeping an eye out because we have got quite a big bull coming up behind us. We shall just see. I'm just making sure that he doesn't decide to turn and come down here either. So strangely enough, a few times on walk while we've been in this area, we've seen an elephant cow with just a calf, just one. Not a super young calf, a few years old. And I don't know if this is her, because it doesn't look like a very big herd unless the others are all just hiding away, maybe on the other side of the tree. But we shall stick here for a bit longer and hopefully unravel that mystery. It seems as though Pete has not moved away from his cats.
Welcome back to Pinda, where we're still with these lions. They're slowly starting to move around a little bit more. You can see this lioness. Craig and I were having a laugh. She looks like she's holding this little bouquet of flowers. Looks very, very sweet. It's actually a wild basil plant, and it smells really nice. So I wonder She's trying to mask the scent of the smelly carcass just to her left. Beautiful. And we were just noticing also, if you look just behind her shoulder there, she's got quite a bit of blood. And at the top behind her ear, looks like the top of her shoulder blade, there's quite a big notch that looks quite fresh. Oh, won't be able to see it now. But that might have happened as a result of the hunt. And when she was maybe chasing down the wildebeest, we know that they were quite a strong kick, and she might have got a kick while she was taking the animal down. You know, lions often work together, so maybe one of the lionesses had the wildebeest by the neck, and then the other one, this one on our right, might have been somewhere else on the body, maybe on the spine or something, and the wildebeest might have rolled over and given it a kick, because I'm just trying to work out just how she got a kick on the top of the shoulder. Quite an interesting spot. Could also have been a horn or something, but it doesn't look like there's any penetration there. You can see that cub at the back now, just airing out the stomach. Bila, they aren't afraid because the male lions that are around at the moment are the fathers or the father of these cubs, so they know that they're safe, and these male lions know that it's their genetics that are in these cubs. So they, instead of being afraid of them, they know that these male lions will actually protect them from any other threats or any other predators that might want to harm the cubs. If it was a new male lion that from the outside that wasn't the father of these cubs, that is when they may be a little bit more afraid, and that's when the mothers would be quite defensive and trying to protect their cubs and keep them away from the outside male as best as possible. It can get quite ferocious when lioness is trying to protect her cubs. At this stage, these lionesses, the young cubs, are still they're not sexually mature just yet, and as they reach that sexual maturity, that's when they'll become safe again, even to an outside male lion, because then the male lion would know that he could actually breed with them and make or get some cubs that are of his genetics. Earlier we saw that male lion flicking his tail around, trying to get those flies off. We can see now this cub also just flicking its ear for exactly the same reason. They don't like the flies around. Often the flies try and get into their eyes and try and get a little bit of that mucus, and it's quite annoying for the lions. You can see these three sub-adult cubs have got quite a close bond with their mothers already, or with their mother. You can see they're all really, really close by, and they're going to stick with these lionesses for the rest of their lives, which is quite amazing. It'll be quite a nice pride when they're all fully grown. But we're going to stick here a little while. I'm going to go and try and see if we can find the younger cubs that got a feeling that they're somewhere around here. But we're going to send you off to Steve.
Welcome back to Djuma, everybody. We're on the eastern side now, and a nice bird of prey there. Quite an easy one to identify, but I'm going to throw it out to the viewers there to see who knows their birds and who can tell me who this is. Send through your questions, or your answers to my question. #WildEarth, third on the YouTube chat stream. The answer to Steve's bird is And I'm sure some of you will get it right. Some of you might struggle. There is one bird that's often confused with this one. But there's some very noticeable characteristics in this bird of prey. Medium to large size. You'll notice if you look closely at the legs, notice it doesn't seem to have any feathers on the legs. Quite small though, but stockily built. Greyish brown. Andrea, unfortunately it's not the martial eagle. It is a bird that often people will confuse with the martial, but it's far smaller. Obviously you could confuse it with a couple of the others of its family, but in this area it stands alone. But size, it's far smaller. Well, you are half correct in your answer there. I wonder if you want to add a word onto the front of your answer there, because there are two different types of those birds in this area. Maybe 2 words onto the front of your one. So only 60 centimeters long, only get up to just over a kilogram. Distribution all the way from northern KwaZulu-Natal along the coastline up into Kenya. Picky, how are you doing? I was thinking about you yesterday and wondering, I haven't heard your name mentioned in ages. Picky indeed has got the answer right. It is a black-chested snake eagle. A very common bird in Picky's parts, I think, if it is indeed the same lady, comes from around Palabora. Very common in this area. As with the snake eagles, their primary source of food is snakes, but obviously they do move over to lizards as well, which are basically just snakes with legs. And they also really take other small animals. They're not much of a sort of chase and catch predator. They sort of sit around and wait. They do often fly around, but they're often seen perching. It's where they will basically take their food from. So they'll sit on a perch like that. Very good eyes, as with all eagles, looking for movement. Scanning the ground before plunge diving. And the major reason why snake eagles don't have feathers all the way down to their legs, one of the major reasons obviously is their propensity for eating snakes. And snakes, as you know, have the ability to bite and envenomate. And so snake eagles have actually got extra layers of sort of not cartilage, but of padding on their legs that prevent the envenomation that would come with being bitten on the leg. And also having feathers on the legs means that you have blood capillaries to the surface. And if you're dealing with snakes and you get bitten, well, there's a very good chance you could die.
It's the month of March and WildEarth is offering you the chance to win a brand new prize. Sign up to be a WildEarth Explorer and you could win a 5-day eco-training ranger experience for 2. Eco-training is the pioneer and leader in safari guide and wildlife training in Africa. The lucky winners can look forward to approaching dangerous game on foot, tracking and 4x4 driving, learning about animal behavior, and even spending one night sleeping out under a blanket of stars. In addition, you will also get the exclusive opportunity to join the WildEarth team on the broadcasting vehicle. Sign up to be an explorer now, and it could be you that wins this life-changing experience. Terms and conditions apply. With a slew of potential dangers lurking, it's essential to be aware of your surroundings whilst walking in the wilderness.
20 yards away from one of the most endangered species. This is a big bull.
What a moment, what a close encounter with an Ellie bull. He's just over here now. He's moved completely away.
Being on a bushwalk and seeing a leopard, I mean, it's ridiculous to be this close to a leopard on foot and for him not to run is absolutely insane. How crazy was that?
Through the gap there is just the back of the head of a male lion. He is absolutely unaware that we are here right now. I tell you, seeing lions on foot, it definitely brings out the caveman in you, this little scared human being.
I got into wildlife filmmaking because of a passion for nature and a notion that I could make a difference. Helping others fall in love with nature brings meaning to what I do. It's also a lot of fun. A couple of times per week, we receive some very heartfelt messages from viewers telling us about how WildEarth has made a difference in their life, whether it's helped them through a difficult period or simply helped them to reconnect with nature. I think that's why we do what we do.
Another cub has come to visit us here at the den. It's one of Ribbon's boys. Busy investigating. Heart. Poor thing's got something stuck in his paw. But it doesn't look like a thorn or anything. It looks like he might have stepped in some scat or some dung. Look at that. What have you got there? Is it smelly? Is that it? No, don't come bring your smelliness here. Jessica, you'd like to know what the role of a male hyena in the clan is? The role of the male hyena is to be able to reproduce. So we know that the female has lots of different types of roles. Firstly, the biological role of any animal is to reproduce and to make sure that the best genes goes forward. But I know what you mean when you're asking about the role of a male, because it seems that everything is concentrated around the females. But the role of the male is to actually fertilize the females and to bring in genetic variation, because the males that will mate with females within a clan are all immigrant males. Females won't mate with males within their clan. And that's why, for example, Ribbon's two boys, Shimbulu and Ngwazi, the both of them will have to disperse. I mean, they don't have to. They can stay in this clan if they want to, but if they stay in the clan, they won't be able to reproduce. And in that sense, it's kind of pointless biologically. So even though they enjoy quite a high status at the Djuma clan, being the matriarch's sons, they won't be able to reproduce, so they can just enjoy that status and that's it. So once they go to another clan and they finally immigrate and disperse, they are introducing genetic variation and variability to that clan. And that's ultimately the purpose of dispersal, so that individuals are not constantly mating within the same gene pool. He's it's just gone and sat down on the other side. So with the Ribbons boys as an example, if they go to like the Elephant Plains clan, for example, they'll be way down at the bottom, low ranking. Not only are they males, but they would be new immigrant males. So they'll be right at the bottom, but at least they'll get to mate. Sounds quite sad when you say that their purpose is just to mate. But we can never have one without the other. You can't have males without females or females without males. Otherwise there'd be no reproduction and there'd be no species. So it's actually very, very important, even though it sounds a little sad. Brad, you'd like to know how strong hyenas' jaws are? Terribly strong. They have a force of about 1,100 psi. So if I put that in perspective for you, your bite force is about 100 psi, a little bit under, a little bit over, depending on how strong your jaw is and the muscles around it. A leopard and a lion is way under 1,000 psi. It's probably around 400 to 600. I think a jaguar is a little bit higher, about 800 psi, and a hippo is about 1,800 psi. So a hyena's jaw is very, very strong. So the bite force is quite huge. Now they also have conical shaped blunt teeth. So the teeth are not sharp like that of a cat. They're quite blunt, and that assists even more in getting right in there. So if they manage to grab one of our legs or something like that, if they grab the leg, it's going to be very difficult to get loose because you can't even tear yourself out of their grip because their teeth are blunt. And their jaws have really strong muscles, and their skulls are really large too. In fact, the skull of a fully grown hyena, big female, is comparable to that of a lioness. About 3 kgs. It's huge. And they have a ridge on the top of their head. It's called a sagittal crest. We no longer have that, but early humans, or early humanoids, did have sagittal crests. And many other animals have sagittal crests. They kind of look like, if you imagine a skull. There we go. Thank goodness, a skull. It kind of looks like a... Actually, I might just show you with my hands. So I can actually remember doing this in biology when I was in school. So ode to my high school biology teacher. So sagittal crest, here's your skull. Sagittal crest is, say, where the bones fuse at the top of your skull, but instead of being round like this, they do this. So it fuses and kind of pokes upwards. But what that allows is that now that I've got this extra bony ridge here, the muscles that can be attached here on the sides of the skull can be much bigger and heavier. And then those muscles would come down to my jaw, and it would make everything much stronger. It creates more area for it to hinge onto. And that's one of the really important things about hyenas and the development of their skull and their jaws, because those make up the infrastructure onto which the muscles attach. All that development, that strength, takes time. It takes time to finally achieve that bite force. I don't know what the bite force of the cubs would be, but certainly not up to 1,100 psi. It's a very interesting part of biology, the way they develop like that. You know, hyenas, it takes a long time for them to be weaned, far longer than other predators. About 1.5 years 15 months to a year and a half. And that is an ode to just how, or testament to how long it takes for that main weapon of theirs, the ability to crush bones. All that takes a long time to develop, so they need to be weaned quite late on in their lives. Very sleepy heart. Anyway, let me send you over to Pete. He's found little bundles of joy.
Welcome back to Pinder, where we found the cubs. They just came out of this little bush to our left. They were just sneaking away here. But as it's cooling down, we can feel a light breeze coming over. These cubs managed to just sneak out. We can see just some leaves and grass running or moving around here on our left. And the rest of the cubs are there, but this one is lying so nicely for us. And see those really, really big ears on such a small little face. Really, really so sweet. Look at those eyes too. They still look so shiny and clean. I know these cubs are about 5 months old now, but you can still just see that amazing youth in their faces. You can see as those eyes look around. There's no scars on the face. Oh, there's one of the other cubs just coming through now. Thanks, Kelly. I agree with you 100%. They are so sweet. And look at how inquisitive they are. There's that little piece of grass that's annoying this cub that's looking at us. It's just tickling his nose. And tickling those whiskers that I think is making it a little bit frustrated. Look at those eyes now. As it looks up, maybe there was a bird that flew over. So inquisitive. Look at that small little yawn. And earlier we were speaking about the canine of that male lion. Compare it to those tiny little teeth of this cub. You can imagine they're very, very sharp at this stage. So they will still be suckling at this time. And we actually saw Mom just coming towards us. I'm sure as it cools down, she will go and greet them. But they will still be doing a bit of suckling. At this stage, they'll be doing probably half suckling, half meat, especially if there isn't a lot of meat around at the moment. I think Mom saw the cubs coming out at the same time we did, and that's when she decided to come a little bit closer. It's quite beautiful. You can just see those eyes just poking through the thicket now. See the close bond that these cubs have as well. And from a young age, from the time they were born, the mother would have left them for long periods at a time to go off hunting. She would have left them in quite a safe spot, either on top of a hill or in a thicket. And she would have had to leave them there to go and find food for herself to get enough nutrients to produce the milk that these cubs need to survive. So they would have had to rely on each other just to huddle up, to keep warm, and also to use those big ears that we were talking about to pick up on any other things that might be approaching. You can see now also those beautiful spots that are on these cubs often people don't realize that the lion cubs are all born with these spots, and the spots are used for camouflage, similar to the spots of a leopard or of a cheetah. Just helps them really camouflage into their surroundings. And as these cubs get older, those spots will start to fade away. See this cub just chewing on a little bit of grass now. Luna, no, they won't be marking their territory at this stage. I have seen cubs that are slightly older than this imitating the male lions that will be walking along the road and scent mark, and then the cub will go and pretend to scent mark behind them. But as these cubs aren't territorial yet, they won't be scent marking. They will leave that up to the adults. And as soon as they get a bit older and look at that, got a little bit of a fright. As these cubs get a little bit older and then able to defend their own territory, that's when they'll start to scent mark as well. You can see that gentle paw just giving an affectionate tap there. All this grooming and interaction like this is really important to this bond that we were speaking of earlier between these cubs. These cubs will be relying on each other for almost everything at this stage. Obviously not food, because that's what their mothers, but in terms of developing their hunting skills and Paul, these cubs are about between 5 and 6 months old now, and they've been moving around with mom for the last 3 months, and we know that they den for about 2.5 to 3 months as well. If you compare them to those sub-adult cubs that we saw earlier, they're quite a lot smaller, and you can see they haven't quite come to the age where they'll be interacting too much yet. If those older cubs had to come and mess around with these cubs, and I'm sure that the mom will protect them and almost discipline those older cubs, say, hey, don't get too close to my youngsters. This one is definitely the most inquisitive of the bunch. We were looking at that carcass earlier, and we saw that rib cage. I'm sure these cubs might even go and snack on those ribs a little bit. That's what the type of bits of meat that they'd be feeding on at the moment. Little bits of softer meat, and they would rely heavily on mom to open up the carcass and cut the skin so they could get through and get to that softer bit of meat.
On the 27th of April, WildEarth will be turning 14 years old, and we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for all of you. And to celebrate, we will be finishing the beautiful book that we started last year that looks at the history so far. But we do need you to be part of it. Please submit your most memorable sighting, or what WildEarth means to you, or even just your name and a comment to be included inside the book. over to the website to add your name and reserve your copy. We are offering a 20% discount on all books bought before the end of March. And a big thank you to all of you who have contributed to the book so far.
WildEarth explorer Jenny recently joined Tristan as he broadcast live from Djuma.
Awesome to kind of have a guest on board. I'm looking forward to this. This is Jenny.
Hi everyone.
And Jenny is the first of our Ticket to Dream holders.
If you want to go on safari with a WildEarth guide, whilst honing your bush knowledge and of course featuring in one of our shows, then head over to our website.
Literally being with Tristan on the vehicle today has been incredible. It has truly been a dream come true.
Sign up to be a WildEarth explorer and you could be making your first ever on-screen appearance.
I would highly recommend being a part of the Explorer program and being able to be a part of an interactive live drive.
It's a huge privilege to be in these incredible places with these amazing animals. I love filming lions. When they do get up and do something, it's always spectacular. When they are playing, are incredibly fun to watch, especially subalterns and cubs. I love being in the bush and working in these incredible places with these amazing animals. We want to bring it to you so that you can almost feel like you're right there and be able to experience it and enjoy it the way we are.
We haven't really done much walking this afternoon, and I don't intend to either, purely because all the action is here and there are some more bulls that have moved in and are now having a bit of a swim again. It's so peaceful. Maybe we should just take a moment, just like 20 seconds, just to listen to the elephants. Isn't that epic? Oh, they seem to every now and then pop their trunks up. They haven't done it now, but just before you came back to us, it was smelling something over the dam wall, so we'll keep our eyes open. As we know, there was a leopard there this morning. Who knows, maybe he comes back for another drink. If that is the case, then we'll probably have to move out of his pathway. But there's something else that I wanted to show you. I actually tried to show it the other day. We just couldn't quite get it right. So I remembered where I found this. Have a closer look. So, in my very sweaty palms, because I've been holding onto it for quite some time, is elephant hair. How awesome is that? So this you can see I've pulled from a tree. There's bits of lichen in there. There's also some mud. And the hair that I've pulled out is not very long. So I'm just trying to turn the one around because you can... Oh, stay there. Settle. You can see the hair follicle just at the tip of that hair. I suspect that this has probably come from the body, as most of the hairs are quite short. They don't seem to be particularly long. Now, if you haven't ever seen an elephant up close, you're probably thinking I'm talking nonsense, but they have got quite a few hairs all over their body. Even if you just have a look at their trunks, and it's something that I'll try and show you, is you can actually see when they drag their trunks through the sand, if the grains are fine enough, you'll see all the little hairs on their trunk. They're short and they're quite hard. Then if you move on to their bodies, of course they've got these short little bristles, kind of like the ones that I showed you, not very long at all. So I'll just do that, and they sort of just poke up like that. And then inside their ears, which obviously helps keep out the dirt, they've also got quite a bit of hair, and of course the lovely long, luscious locks. I'm just joking. Elephants don't have luscious locks, but the longest part of an elephant's hair is going to be on its tail. And that actually feels a bit like plastic, if you've ever found a strand of elephant tail hair, which is awesome. So that's quite nice to see. I was trying to look to see if there are any ticks or any other parasites, maybe some mites that I could find up on these trees, but that doesn't seem to be the case. But I reckon if we looked at some of the leadwoods, if we get another chance, and we could get closer to them, but I don't feel like going for a swim today. that we would definitely find some parasites up there. Do you want to come this way, Niels? Because there's such a nice view of this big bull drinking. Look at that. He's a magnificent creature. I've just shuffled out of Niels' way. Lorna, so obviously when we're talking about the elephant's trunk, and I mentioned to you how hairy it is, think of like a cat's whiskers. So obviously elephant's trunk is a very useful sort of tool. And when elephants have got their trunks down on the ground, they are feeling for things. I would imagine those harder bristles on the outside must act as some kind of guide, like they can sort of feel things that are around them. They're obviously going to have lots and lots of hairs on the inside of their trunks again, as they do inside the ears, and so do humans. We also have lots of hair on the inside. But just around the sort of entrance. Obviously the hair doesn't go all the way up the trunk. That would be a little bit ridiculous. Can you imagine? They'd be sneezing all day long. It would just tickle them all the time. So it's just around the entrance of the trunk. If we go up to the favorite spot of elephants, where they like to dust bathe, just up on the northern side of the dam wall, we might be lucky to see some of those tracks that I was talking about, as there were elephants not too long ago sand bathing, dust bathing, which was quite nice. And now there's an elephant right at the back outside the water behind those that were swimming. And it actually looks like he is rubbing up against a tree now. So that's typically what elephants like to do. It's always really wonderful to see these different kinds of behaviors. I know we talk about them all the time, but I never get tired of watching elephants do the same thing over and over. Lots of birds chirping away in the distance as well. Isn't that nice? Sometimes when I stand at Ndlovu Dam, I like to imagine that I'm actually at the beach, especially with the sound of the water washing up onto the mud when the elephants splash their trunks about. But I think we'll go see what else we can find. Maybe we'll take a peek over the dam wall. Off we go to Trishalo, who has not left her hyenas.
I could also watch elephants do the same thing all day. Every single sighting, I could watch them all the time. So I definitely know what Taylor's talking about. Even here at the den, I can watch these guys do whatever they do all the time. But what I love is that, just like with the elephant sightings Taylor's telling you about, where she can stick around and just watch them do the same thing, there's always something that's different. We just have to be watching closely. Or sometimes have the patience to watch long enough to be able to actually find that one unique thing that separates this sighting from the next. In this case, very calm, not much happening. We're just spending some time watching them and enjoying them. But I saw a giant African millipede walk past Hart's face, and she did not even flinch. So for me, that was the notable thing this sighting. Hear the little pitter patter of these feet. Can you hear? Moving in the grass. Tammy, you'd like to know if hyenas mark and patrol a territory? Most definitely. And they have quite large territories. Their territories really can be anything from about 10 kilometers squared or 20 kilometers squared to over 100, 150 kilometers squared. It all depends on the amount of resources. In areas with very, very few and scarce resources, few prey items, very little water, those areas, territories will be larger. In areas where there's lots of resources, territories will be smaller. And they certainly do patrol these territories. So say this hyenas, like Djuma clan's territory, I might put it at about 20 kilometers squared from what I know. Possibly a little less, maybe 15. That's just from what I know. The parts of it that will be patrolled most carefully and most closely are the parts that are in the central area, which would be where they would have their dens. So consider where we are now, the central portion of their territory. And this central portion is marked mostly. So you'll often see them scent marking. So now we get on to how they scent mark. They scent mark by anal pasting. So they have a pouch just at their anus that they're able to push out. You might be able to see it if you want to. But I promise you, it's not weird at all. It looks very normal. So there's a little pouch that's kind of in the inside. So when they push out, the pouch gets, that gland and that pouch kind of are revealed. And then they rub that on stalks of grass. And that paste, or hyena butter, or there's some other fancy names for it, all sound a bit like face cream names, you know? But all those things, we'll call it the anal pasting. The paste, the hyena paste, has lots of chemical cues. Chemical cues and information as to the identity of the paster, as well as the general scent for the clan. So when one animal pastes, the other animal will paste on top of it, as in the other hyena, and then they will acclimatize the bacteria. All of them will have the same bacteria that will allow them to have the similar scent. Still, though, they will have a unique individual scent. On the boundaries of the territory, it's patrolled less often than the central area, but it's also scent marked with these anal pastings. Apparently it smells like burnt soap or burning soap. How somebody discovered that, I will not know, because I have never myself smelt soap burning. But that's how they will patrol, and that's how they will define the boundaries of their territory. The other way they'll do this is with latrines or feces. It's not exactly latrines in the sense that they don't all come in and defecate in one very specific area that you will find like with civets. But there will be general areas where they will defecate, and then that will also act as a way to scent mark their territory. The fact that at the edges it's not as well patrolled on the fringes of the territory, you may get other hyenas that are not part of the clan moving in and out along those areas. Jackson, you'd like to know what's the main cause of death in hyenas? There's a few things. So, as a cub, it's the obvious. There's lots of cave-ins, den cave-ins that can kill cubs, especially since certain cubs won't come out. Especially if it's a small clan, maybe this animal has not even been introduced to the rest of the clan, so it won't come out if the mother doesn't return. If the mother is killed, it'll stay in that den. It won't come out, and it's likely to die. That is another explanation. Is if the mother dies, there's no allo suckling. There have been a few recorded cases, but another hyena is not very likely to adopt a cub that is not her own. So then that would also be a cause of cub mortality. Strangely, apart from normal predator interaction, like if a lion gets hold of cubs, leopard get hold of cubs, or wild dogs, also things like martial eagles can take cubs. So that's another thing to consider. Then there's also dominance or asserting dominance between cubs that can result in death, not as not as prominent or significant a cause of death as we have been led to believe in the past when research was limited. No. So that's just with cubs, and with adults, things like clan takeovers, malnutrition as a result generally from injury, and of course people-hyena, human-hyena interaction. Those are the main things, but we've spoken about hyena population and how it's of least concern. The population is doing really well. They're the most numerous predator on the continent. Mammalian predator, at least. And they actually have, in certain areas, good relationships with humans. But, that's not always the case. In fact, most of the time it's not the case. So there's a human-hyena conflict is definitely a thing. Also because hyenas have scavenging behavior, at least half of the time, here in South Africa. So if there is some cattle that's gotten out, or a hyena that's gotten out and gone to the village, it's going to scavenge. It's going to scavenge, not just hunt, but also rubbish, going through things like that, looking for food. So that can also be a problem. But that's a bit of a downer, also relevant, but also a bit of downer. So I think I'm going to send you over to Pete and his super cute lion cubs for a pick-me-up.
Welcome back, where we've also got some excellent survival exploits. And lion cubs, out of all the cubs in the natural world, I think lions are one of the most successful cubs, or have one of the most successful cubs. And I think it's due to just them being on top of being apex predators out here. And a lot of the other predators are quite wary of lions. And so if they do pick up on the scent of lions around, they're quite cautious. But look at that one now, just taking a nibble at the foot of this other cub. So sweet. These two have been going at it for a while, whereas the other two are just completely lying flat. Getting up and moving now. You see that full belly as it got up there, as the cub got up. As it starts to get cooler, these cubs will get more and more active, and that's why it's always lovely to find a pride of lions that has these young cubs around. They tend to be a lot more active and playful than the slightly older lions that are around in this pride as well. So lovely. As it's cooling down now, there's also a lot of birds that are calling. Luazi, their spots will only start to fade completely as they get a lot older, so around 3 or 4 years old. So it takes quite a while for them to lose their spots. You can see the one cub just moving off there. And I just want to angle slightly so Craig can also get a view of the mother, because I just want to show even she has light spots. If you look just in front of us here, This is the mother. You can see her suckle marks. You can see really swollen teeth, so she's still, the cubs are still suckling. But if you look on her hind leg there, you can see there's still light spots there. And Lwazi, she's about 3.5 or 4 years, so she's about to lose those spots. But if you're looking at that older lioness that we saw earlier, she doesn't have any spots left, and she's around 6 years old. So, yeah, quite interesting to see that. You can see this lioness is very full. Mum almost came and greeted the cubs, but now she's changed her mind and is completely passed out. I think when you're really full like that, you don't really want to be bothered by too much else. I'm going to go back. Oh, look at that one now, just lying on her back. Quite a nice, interesting pose like that. Tim, it's a good question. So they do groom each other. Allo grooming is what it's called, but it's really important in the bonding of the pride. They'll often groom each other if they have an injury, just to keep the wound clean, and also they'll help take little parasites or ticks off of each other. They do groom themselves more than they groom each other, but they certainly do groom each other. The mother will also groom these cubs quite a lot, and just keep them as clean as possible. Hygiene is actually very important in the survival of these animals. You can imagine they can't go and jump in the waterhole and clean themselves, so that's their way of cleaning themselves. And lions' tongues have lots of these little hairs called papilla, which are actually quite long. I'm not sure if you have a cat at home, but if you feel that tongue is really rough, if you times that by about 15, you'll see, you'll get an idea, or begin to get an idea of what a lion's tongue may be like. Really rough, and yeah, super important in their survival out here. I'm just going to re-angle now, just to get a view of these cubs again. Craig, let me know when we're good. Slightly back. There we go. We're going to sit here for a little while, and we hope that they come out and maybe go towards where Mum is lying. But we're going to send you off now.
Welcome back, everyone. Well, I'm sure the lion's parents' mum is quite happy the cubs aren't coming out to play, because once they do, they can be a little bit of a handful. Well, everyone, we've been spending some time trying to track down Tandy, and we weren't able to find any fresh tracks. We're doing another loop around the block, and then we found a young hyena, one of Pretty's youngsters, and it's been leading us all over the place, and now it has found itself a waterbuck skull from an old kill, I'm sure. I don't remember this one. A big waterbuck male skull, and it's moved the skull slightly and it started to lie in whatever there was on the ground. Poor darling has got an injured back left leg. It doesn't look injured, but the way it moves and holds it up from time to time, indicating that it's not very happy with that back foot. It's been out in the open for us for some time. Now, obviously, as soon as you've decided to come and join us, gone and plop down in whatever mess the remains of that waterbuck carcass will provide. And what's interesting, and that is how the hyena first originated on the landscape. It's why they've got such powerful jaws, such powerful teeth, because they evolved at a time when saber-toothed tigers and the like, large predators, were making kills, and they weren't really eating the bones, they were just eating the meat. And so the hyena moved into a niche of its own, whereby there's always food on the landscape. In the Masai Mara, if there's no food around, there's always carcasses and bones that the hyena can go and access. Their very powerful teeth and jaws are able to access the marrow and the bone and the calcium and all the nutrients that comes with that in times when other animals will not get any food at all. So continuing on a little bit of ecological discussion, we talk about habitat, but we talk about ecological niche. What is a niche? Niche is the place in the landscape that an animal moves into, or the available space that an animal can live in. That is called the fundamental niche. So the fundamental niche means the area in the landscape an animal or organism can move into or survive in without any competition. Okay, so take all the competition out of the way, and that would be the fundamental niche. But as we know, there's plenty of competition. So add the competition in, and where that animal or organism occurs in the landscape with competition is called the realized niche, the actual area that they occur in. So obviously hyenas have got lots of competition. They're also highly competitive themselves with other hyenas and with lions, leopards, wild dog, and the like. So they fit in exactly where they're supposed to. And it's why you don't find brown hyenas where they're high density of spotted hyenas. And it's why when you look across the African continent, you have very specific sort of areas that you get this type of a hyena, and then the next, almost like a geographical line, one species and then another species. The same with many types of foxes or jackal species. They don't occur at the same place, because where the two occur together, one outcompetes the other all the time. And so that's why we have speciation. That's why we have such defined ranges for many of our animal species. Okay, well, our hyena has finally put his head up, but we're going to send you over to Josh, who's got something for you.
Well, folks, we found something different, and in this case, not something we were expecting. Now, an incredibly important part of any ecosystem, especially the arid ecosystems, is your aardvark. And the reason being, they create homes for multiple other species. This burrow has definitely been repurposed and elongated quite a bit. And the reason I can say that is that the current owner has left behind a few souvenirs for us. I'm just going to pick up one here, and we land up with quite a few porcupine quills here. About 10 that I can count, and every single one is different. So if we take a look, we've got little ones that you'll find most likely on the tail, and a much thicker one which you'll find along the spine. But we can get a lovely look at this little system and how he's burrowed in, or the aardvark would have, and dug out a much bigger chamber on the inside. Now these won't just be used by porcupine. You'll find anything from warthogs to pangolin using them, as well as certain bird species will actually do their own little system into the roof of this aardvark's burrow. This being your ant-eating chat, as well as your shell ducks will use abandoned aardvark burrows as a nesting system over and above it. So you suddenly realize how one species starts creating homes for an entire ecosystem. And that linking is something that's always fascinated me, because you realize it's not just the circle of life, but how interconnected everything is in between. Now, without the aardvark, you'd find species struggling for a safe haven at night, which would be your warthogs, and you'd struggle with your porcupine in that, needing somewhere to hide during the heat of the day away from predators. Now, here on Tswalu, our lions, especially our males, are very fond of a porcupine on the menu. So burrows like this become even more important. I have seen our wild dog pack, which we were lucky enough to spend some time with yesterday, who also try and dig the warthogs out sometimes. So we're going to be sending you across to Taylor while I investigate a little bit more about who else might have been here. Enjoy.
Now we're going to play a little game this afternoon at Pridelands. And the game is, guess what the plant is? Yay, very exciting stuff. We're starting off easy, very, very easy. So I'd like to know what this plant is. You can see it has got a bright yellow fruit on it. You can have a look at the leaves, are sort of velvet in texture. Maybe these are some clues. And I will tell you that the fruit is poisonous, and those are the only clues that you're getting. Hashtag WildEarth, let us know, send your answers through, and we'll give you a bit of time though. There's 2 quizzes, just by the way. Right, next one. Ooh, bending down is getting harder and harder. The next one, I'm just going to shuffle that seed out of the way like that. We'll put it back. In here, you'll see that there's this beautiful herb that is growing. That should be a clue. And if I smell it... Sorry, let me stand up, that's easier. Don't sniff it up your nose, that's not intended. That's not fun at all. But you can see, I can use this for quite a few things. But yeah, have a guess. So hashtag WildEarth, send your questions, send your answers through, and hopefully we'll get some guesses as to what 2 plants these are. But now there's something else that I want to show you, which requires us to move just a little bit that way. I'm going to tip this out of my hand now. You can see which way the wind is blowing. I found a really cool thing. I found my favorite thing. Wait. Obviously, I'm almost going to trip. Oh, there's actually lots of bugs in here. But anyways, I'm going to very carefully show you something in the grass. It's a white sack. It doesn't look like much now, but there's something inside. Now this, I'm just trying to hold it gently, is a jumping spider nest. And there is currently, if you look carefully, look at the little legs at the entrance. She's just closing us out. She said, no, not today, sorry. That is a jumping spider that's in there. And I suspect that the reason why she's closed up shop is because she's got some eggs inside there. How's that, hey? That's great security. Now, I'm going to leave her because I was hoping she was going to come out, but it doesn't seem to be the case because she's so chubby. She's the fattest spider I've ever seen in my life. But anyways, Coast Rider, you've said that the first answer was a bush apple, I think you said. So we're just going to march around. Niels will have to follow me. You said bush apple. Were there any other guesses? Perhaps? For this one, for plant number 1? Look at it. I'm going to get all the little hairs stuck in my hand. I'm just waiting for a response. They're very firm. They're not squishy at all. There we go. We'll do 2 answers. So we've got Coast Rider who has said bush apple, and then we've got Willie who has said poison apple. Dun, da, da, da. No, people don't do that. Ting, ting, ting. I don't know. That's a Michael thing. Michael goes ting, ting, ting when he wants people to listen to what he's about to say. Anyways, you are correct, Willie, that this is indeed a poison apple. And Ghost Rider, you were close. Bush apple, I haven't really heard that common name before, but anyways, it's in the Solanum family, so the potato family. And like I said to you, the fruits are poisonous. So it's not good if things like to eat it. However, there are some animals out here that you'll see feeding on the fruits just every now and then. Nothing has touched this just yet. The leaves are all dying though. Right, now we need to go to plant number 2. Just as a rule of thumb anyways, I know I have said this before, but you shouldn't really eat things that look like tomatoes, cucumbers and onions. Weezer, you've guessed wild basil for plant number 2. That is wonderful. You are indeed correct. Now, my favorite thing to do with the wild basil, and why I pulled it off like that, just a small amount, is to rub it up in your hands and to really just put it all over your body and make sure I don't kill any insects in the process, because it is a wonderful insect repellent. And I smell.
Well, everybody, those of you who know me well will know that I like to do a bit of birding when we have other animals, especially if they decide to sleep. Beautiful little bird here. We heard it calling. It's the only reason we were able to find it. And there's lots of birds shouting their defiance. You can hear a southern black tit shouting. There was a chagra before. This little pearl-spotted owlet is an incredible hunter, very powerful little hunter. Feeds on small birds as large as doves, which are probably a little bit bigger than they are. Very powerful feet. They are known as a crepuscular hunter, which means they're most active sort of at dusk and dawn. Obviously, they're powerful feet. As with raptors, they're able to kill their prey with crushing blows and powerful talons. Quite beautiful to just sit and listen. Megan reckons owls always look so angry. I suppose you're right. I do have a bit of that sort of look to them. Ecological adaptations to being able to hear and see so well leads to a little bit of a gruff exterior. I reckon they're pretty cheerful fellows. When they're not out killing other animals, I reckon they're very cheerful. Intent eyes looking down at something. Very patient. Spend all day waiting. All the birds know that it's here. They can't see it, but it called. It did this high whistling call, which is how we found it. Waiting for an unsuspecting animal to put itself out in the open. Of course, Sam, owls most of the time sleep during the day. Most of them are nocturnal. These ones are diurnal. But most owls will fall asleep during the day. That is the only way for them to be called night owls. So the term night owl comes from. A person who stays awake at night and sleeps by day. So only the pearl-spotted and possibly the barred owlet you would regard as being more diurnal, and that's got to do with the competition element we spoke about before. And being crepuscular means that they're active at times when hardly anyone's really active when it comes from a predatory point of view. So that's also a type of niche separation. We spoke about the realized niche and something to do with time. How do large predatory birds interact? Well, big owls interact at night or active at night. Large birds of prey are active during the day. They can feed on the same prey resource, so they can eliminate their competition by being night shift versus day shift. And these little owlets that are obviously under pressure from both the large owls and the large predatory birds, which of course owls are as well, have to fit into spots in the day when the others are least active. So that's why you get crepuscular species fitting into a spot that's just at the time when the other owls are going to sleep and when the other birds of prey are starting to wake up.
For all of you Wild Earth explorers who bought plaques, today is the day that you will make your very first safari on our vehicle. Because we are quite remote here in the bush, they have taken some time to arrive, but I am happy to say they are here and they look great. Marcel has spent the day attaching them. Let's take a look.
Before we mount these nameplates, we just give a light dusting of green paint. This is to better match them to the color of the vehicles and also to decrease the reflectivity of the metal and thereby staying sensitive towards the animals.
Bumbo crew, hopefully, Dan Black, Liesel Apgar and Alicia George. Well, it's time for me to get ready to take you all on a safari. Let's go.
Our lives are dictated by alarm clocks, traffic jams, constant multitasking, and countless distractions. The wilderness is where many of us feel the most human. On a bushwalk, we become part of the natural landscape. As you step off the vehicle, everything comes alive. As with any risky experience, walking amongst these animals inspires awe and appreciation. Now, it's your turn to go on a bushwalk. Join us from Pride Lands as we slow down our thoughts, put aside our distractions, and reconnect with a place that first taught us how to be human.
Hi, my name is Tristan Dix, and I am a guide here at Djuma Private Game Reserve for WildEarth. We love connecting you to the African bush, and we always look forward to all of your questions. If you want to ask a question on WildEarth, you'll need to register on the website. Once registered, go to our live safari page and submit a question below the live feed. Catch up with me on WildEarth.
Welcome back, everybody. Well, a few birds have found our owlet. Now starting to shout at it. Predatory bird, predatory animals, highest advantage is when they are unseen. Once seen, often if they move off, where their camouflage will help once again to conceal them. But right now we're seeing inter-specific competition, whereby a number of bird species are coming together. They're hearing the alarm calls of each other, and they're all starting to move in. There's some rattling testiculars, fork-tailed drongos. Looks like a southern black flycatcher as well. Once they're confident enough, they'll try to chase this owlet away from their breeding grounds. We've got a few, Peter. We've got the barred owlet, southern white-faced owl, Scops owlet, spotted eagle owl, giant eagle owl, wood owl, barn owl, marsh owl, perhaps. I haven't seen a marsh owl here. That is it for this area. On our more perennial rivers, you'll get the Pell's fishing owl. Sort of inland in the Highveld, the grass owl is quite common. Barn owl is across the country. Down in the Cape, you get the Cape eagle owl. Very similar to the spotted eagle